it!
Welcome to Hardheaded Podcast. We're excited that you've joined us as we have a conversation. We found that a good conversation allows us to share what's on our mind, whether current events, what's grinding our gears, or our pet peeves.
It also allows us to share our top 3, a list of our favorite things on any given subject, most of which are highly opinionated. In closing, we share a good word. Solid friendships are encouraging. Even if we joke and give each other a hard time, our ultimate responsibility is to uplift each other.
Our goal is that you'll feel like you're part of the conversation, like you were in the studio with us, and that you feel encouraged after tuning in to our podcast. It's time to join the conversation. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Hardheaded. I'm Matt Amos here with Troy Trussell and Chet Sears.
Episode 90.
Ooh, we're moving up. 90 episodes. Only 10 more to go.
To 100.
To 100.
Yeah.
Today we've got what's on.
I was like, and then what?
Yeah. 101.
We got what's on Chet's mind. Troy's going to bring us a good word. And our top 3 today are top 3 burger toppings.
Yes.
Stuff you're going to put on your burger, which apparently I just said ketchup and Chet said that's a condiment.
That's not a
That's
topping.
a topping.
It's not a topping.
It is a topping.
All right.
I mean, there's whipped topping.
Whipped.
Anyway, Chet, what's on your mind?
So anyway, I was in Sunday school a couple weeks ago, and we're going through the book of Judges in my Sunday school class, which is pretty exciting. We talked about this several episodes ago when Ehud, stabbed the dude, the fat guy.
Lost his sword in his belly.
Yeah, and then all the...
Evacuated his bowels.
Yes, that guy.
Yeah.
Poopy.
So we came across the back half of the story of Gideon, and I have never heard a sermon preached on this before. And I was like, this is something else. I think it ties in with some of the stuff that's going on that we see all the time. But before we get to the second half of the story of Gideon, let's bring our listeners up on the first half of the story of Gideon, which is the half that most everybody knows about. So what do you guys remember about Gideon? Pop quiz. We're going to see if you were paying attention in Vacation Bible School.
Gideon did not feel like he was
called
right
by God to deliver the Israelites from oppression. And that's the story. The book of Judges in the Bible, it's in the Old Testament, is basically the nation of Israel was being occupied, oppressed by a people group. And then God would raise up a judge who would then deliver the people. Then there would be peace. And then they would go back to their old ways, and then they would be oppressed again. And then a judge would come and deliver, and then
rinse and repeat.
The cycle would go over and over. So Gideon is a judge, one of the judges to bring the Israelites out of oppression. And so, Gideon is approached and says, hey, I want you to be my leader, this judge that's going to bring the nation of Israel out of this oppression that they're in from the I can't even remember the Midianites. But anyway, when he was found, like the angel appeared to him, he was threshing wheat in a wine press.
Yes.
Why would you thresh wheat in a wine press, Matt? Because you're hiding. You didn't want to thresh wheat out in the open because he was afraid that somebody would see him. And then that he would, the Midianites would do something to him. He was of royal lineage, is what we understand, and that his brothers were probably murdered at some point by the Midianites. So there was a reason for him to fear, but he was still fearful, threshing wheat in a wine press. And then God said, hey, I choose you. And then Gideon was like, how do I know you're you? And then so he said what?
I can't remember what came first, but he said, if you will put dew.
I'm going to throw this fleece out there on the ground.
Yeah.
And in the morning when I wake up.
Let there be dew on just the fleece,
and the ground be dry.
and the ground be dry.
And that's exactly what happened. And then he was like,
I don't know if that was really you, God. Why don't you? I'm gonna put the fleece it back out there, and then you put dew everywhere but the fleece
right,
this time.
the ground should be wet with dew, and the fleece, it needs to be dry.
Right.
And then he was like, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, that's you. That's you now. It's God. So then, as the biblical story goes, he's like, okay, get an army. And so Gideon goes and gets thousands upon thousands of men. And then God's like, you have too many men. He's like, what are you talking about, God?
You told me to get an army.
We're going to go fight the Midianites, and they have hundreds of thousands of people in their army. And I've got not that many. So I need everybody I can get. And he's like, nope, you got to thin it down. The whole thing with how God, first thing he said is like, if anybody's scared, they can go home. So he announced to all the people that are there, hey, if any of you guys don't want to go in and fight right now, like, you can go. And so a bunch of them left. And then there were still some people that wanted to fight. And then he went down to the water.
Yeah, I
depending on
remember
how
water.
you drank.
Yeah.
So narrowed it down to 300 guys. So Gideon's still nervous about all this, but he knows God's on his side. They go. They don't even draw their swords. Remember, they did the clay pots in the fire, and everybody went berserk and thought they were surrounded and started just hacking and stabbing and
Killing each other. Right?
The army that they were against killed each other, and Gideon and his men didn't have to draw a sword. So that's the Gideon we're talking about. And if you think about everything that we know about Gideon leading up to here, is Gideon was scared, Gideon was uncertain. Even when God was performing miracles to say, I'm God, he's like, I need some more. I need to be in lockstep with you, God. And then like he's lockstep with God, and God's like, you need to reduce your army. And he's like, I don't know if I should, but whatever you say, God. And then he's like, oh, your army's still too big. Well, you tell me what to do. Well, tell them to go get a drink. And if they do it this way, okay, God, I'm right there with you. And then God's like, hey, this is how you're going to attack this army. This is, you need to, okay, I'm on it. Whatever you say. So then, all that's going on in, actually, if you go back before that, the first thing God asked him to do was to tear down a Tower of Babel in his hometown. So a monument that was built to, I'm sorry, not Babel, Baal. Monument that was built to Baal. That's the first thing he needs you to do. He did that. Then he did the whole thing with the Midianites. And so we're talking chapter 6 and chapter 7 in the book of Judges. And then what's really interesting here is there are people that are fleeing because of the victory. And Gideon's like, we're going to go get those guys, Zebah and Zemunah. We're going to chase after these guys. We're going to kill them. They were the leaders of the Midianites. And so he's going, running and gunning, and with his 300 going after these guys. And he's like, I need to, we're running. We're going as fast as we can. We're not stopping for anything. I'm running out of food. We're going to stop by this Israelite village and say, give us some bread. And so he stops by the Israelite village and says, I need some bread. And they're like, you hadn't killed those two dudes yet. So if they make it, they're going to bring an army back and kill us if we helped you. And he's like, I'm going to go catch him, and I'm coming back, and I'm wrapping you guys up in briars and thorns, and I'm going to throw you down a hill. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And then he runs on. He goes to the next town. And he's like, hey, we need some bread. And they're like, hey, I know we're Israelites like you, but you hadn't caught these guys yet. So we're not going to give you bread, because if we did, they're going to murder us all. And he's like, well, I'm going to kill you when I'm done. So he runs off. He catches the guys. He actually calls on some other people of the nation of Israel to block off all the rivers so they can't cross, so he kind of entrap them. And then when they got him, he got there, he let the other guys kill the people. And then he's like doubling back, and he's throwing them down the hill, killed. They captured a dude and was like, who are all the leaders of your town? Named off 77 leaders. They went in that town, lined up 77 people, killed them. And then Gideon comes back, and they're like, hey, Gideon, you're the dude. You're awesome. We want you to be our king. We want your sons to be our king after you're gone, and we want their sons to be our king after your sons are gone. And Gideon's like, no, it's all God. You need to praise God, don't praise me. And then he's like, but all this gold that we got from these people that we killed, I need you to make a ehod out of it. It's a type of a vest. It actually, one other place that is referenced in the Bible is that this was the high priest wore when he went into the Holy of Holies. I need this made out of gold. It weighed 42 pounds of gold rings.
That's a lot of gold.
A lot of gold. And he built a monument in his hometown where there happened to used to be a monument to Baal. Now he has a monument to himself.
Yeah.
And then he basically just goes down this whole path. And I'm like, this is amazing. Because, we always hear about the good story about Gideon.
Right.
But then you turn around and you look. And if you read through the whole stories, and I just gave you a brief summary of what's going on. But if you open up in Judges and read 6, 7, and 8, you realize he starts off hiding. He's not sure that it's God. God shows that it's God. And he's like, show me again, because I really have to be certain about this. And then God shows him again. He's like, what do you want me to do? And I want you to do this. I'll go do that. And then he's like, now what do you want me to do? I want you to go get an army. And he's like, okay, I went and got an army. And now what do you want me to do? I want you to get the army to numbers that are down.
Thin it.
Okay, how do you want me to do that? Well, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and then you're going to have 300. And he did this, and you have 300. And then he's like, now what do you want me to do? He's like, well, I want you to circle, break the pot, scream. It'll take care of itself, right? I got it all, got your back. He's like, okay. They did all that. Then Gideon stopped asking questions. Then Gideon just goes and does what he wants to do. Gideon was not told to go chase down the guys, but he did.
Mm-hmm.
Gideon was not told to get the other groups of people to block off all the rivers, but he did. Gideon was not told to let the other people kill the guys. Gideon was not told to kill the people that didn't give you bread. Gideon was not told to build a monument to himself in his hometown.
Yeah.
And Gideon also, when said, oh, the interesting thing about no, don't make me king, praise God for all this. Guess what Gideon did after that? Basically acted like a king. In fact, I looked this up somewhere. His son, Abimelech, which is a bad dude, by the way, like not bad, like cool, like he stinks.
Evil.
But he was his son, and Abimelech basically means king's son. So he named his kids
King's son.
I'm not going to follow God, don't follow me. I'm going to build myself a monument. I'm going to name my son the king's son. And then, by the way, Abimelech had 70 brothers. How can Abimelech have 70 brothers? They weren't all from the same woman.
Concubines and
Multiple wives. And we're only counting men here. We're not counting the females, which he didn't just have 70 sons. There was 70 sons and I don't know how many daughters. A bunches. So Gideon went from this shy, cowardly, not brave, not courageous man that God sought out and used in his weakness. And while he was leaning on that weakness, God showed him every step of the way that God is still God, and I'm going to tell you every step that you need to take. And then you follow it, you're going to be successful. And then as soon as that success came, Gideon quit asking God things. Gideon started doing stuff on his own. Gideon tried to tell people the right things, like, oh, no, I'm not the king. But his behavior was 100%,
I'm king.
I'm the guy. And it's all on me. I'm going to make a monument in my hometown. And it's pretty interesting, the language that's used in the passage of scripture about the ehod, about his golden vest that everybody went to worship. They hoard themselves out to go worship this. Like that's the language that's used. Like it is not cast a good light on any of the people that went to worship the stuff that Gideon had done. So why was this on my mind? I'm sitting here thinking, how in the world is it that every time we get people that we think are good, trustworthy, and honest to a position of power, they turn out to be horrible people? Horrible.
Douchebags comes to mind.
And in this case, I'm thinking most everybody in leadership at the FBI, most everybody in leadership at the Department of Justice, and most everybody that you talk to are like, oh, there's some good people. I work with that guy who's a good, honorable guy. But I think what we're dealing with is people are getting a taste of power and success, and they handle it just like Gideon does. They're corrupt to their core once they get a taste of the power. And they may try to say the right things, but the behaviors that we're getting out of a lot of these people are an abomination to the role that they signed up for. And I imagine if their younger self would have seen what their older self was doing, they would have beat their own butts.
Yeah. They'd have seen what they were going to become.
Do you think that Merrick Garland, our Attorney General, as a 29-year-old, finished law school, I'm going to go really help the world, do you think that he was going to be on Capitol Hill defending his decision to put parents who are upset with school board direction and they just go up and say some words to say, I don't like where you're going? Do you think that he thought he'd be in a position where he's putting those people on a terrorist watch list?
No.
Do you think that he thought that he would say, hey, you have a don't tread on me flag on your truck, that you should be on a terrorist watch list? If you flew the Texas state flag, that you should be on a terrorist watch list? I don't think he thought he'd be that way. But what we see in the Bible is what we're seeing today. Not to say that Merrick Garland was a Gideon, but once you get a taste of power, you get sour. I mean, it goes south, and it goes south in a very monumental way for most people. Not everybody, but for most people. I mean, I think that's exactly what we see. So all these people that are like, oh, they're good at heart, they're good. Not anymore. They may have been at one time, but they've been eaten up with corruption. And I don't think they would recognize themselves if they were their younger self looking at what they're doing today.
Probably not.
Which is why we need term limits and why we need to fire people that are in government, that have been in government for so long, that are not elected, because they get a taste of this power. We know it. The Bible teaches it. We've seen it. We've witnessed it. You get into power and power corrupts. So we should have a method in our country that doesn't allow people to be in power for any length of time, because centralized power in government is not good. I don't care if there's a D or an R by your name.
Yep.
The longer it's centralized and the longer you're in power, the worse it is for everybody else.
Or an L.
As in loser.
Libertarian. They're on the rise, Chet. Hey, I'm in 100% agreement with you. I think some of these people in power just need to piss off some James Reese type people, and we'll have this stuff handled.
Let's just do it legally. Let's set some term limits. But here's the problem, and I've been here for a couple of years. Is that we think we like the people with whatever political affiliation that you have, with an R or a D by their name. But the reality is they're on the same team. None of them are going for term limits.
No.
They're not going to. Neither one of them are going to vote for, because a Republican thinks that if they were in power, everything would be okay. And a Democrat thinks as long as they're in power, everything's going to be okay.
For them.
But the reality is, as long as the people are not in power, the people are not okay.
Well, the people are losing their power in Kansas.
They're losing their power everywhere.
Yeah.
Every day. Matt, what you got, man?
Well, it's kind of funny because you bring this up, but you're the guy that says I've lost all faith and I'm whatever, nothing's going to change. So you're pointing it out. You've identified the problem. You've identified a potential solution, but what is the action that goes about?
It's not going to happen.
See? So why are we talking about it? That's what I'm saying.
Maybe I can get enough other people to believe this and quit being so pro-political party.
No, I would agree. I mean, and it's been evident because we're so polarized. There's no, like, you don't even hear anything about the middle anymore. You know, I know that there's a middle because the 90% of the people I talk to are in the middle, but the way it's perceived through the media, social media, whatever, newspapers, the news, it's all either one side or the other. There is no middle ground. It's either it's all in or all out.
It kind of like and if you go back through the whole history of the nation of Israel, they kept wanting a king. Give me a king. And God's like, I want you to have me. And they're like, yeah, we want you and a king. We need a political ruler that represents us. And that's all that seems like people want, is their political persuasion to be in power. When the reality is no federal, state, local government is going to give you peace and satisfaction in this world. I don't care if they agree with you or not from a political persuasion perspective.
Well, and
if that's where you want your salvation to come from, it's not coming from that.
No. And I guess maybe foreshadowing a little bit, you know, I mean, I think we're cruising for a judge here pretty quick too.
Yeah, could be. It's coming.
Which is funny. I've got to say this story because you said judge. We're cruising for a judge. I lived in the BSU house my last year of college, which at Baptist Student Union, we had a facility. And at one point in time, they had a parsonage for whoever that minister was, but nobody would live in that dump. So they decided to rent it out. I was one of the people that lived there. And there were a lot of homeless people in town that knew that was the ministry's house. So they felt like they'd come over anytime and get help. And we helped, and we got friends with a couple of the folks that were there. And one of them was named Tim. I don't know if you ever met Tim on campus. He bummed for money all the time.
Probably.
But anyway, he you know, we got to, if we didn't want to
Tim.
talk with Tim, we would just not open the door. Because basically it's like, you know, knock on the door. Who is it? It's Tim. You know, like, Tim, I ain't got time for you today. You know, like, come on, man. But one time, like, who is it? It's the judge. And we all knew it was Tim. And I think that was the time when he told us that he's moving to South Dallas. And if we ever wanted to send him anything, just put Tim and send it to South Dallas. That's what. Give it to the post office.
Did you ever try it?
He's like, it'll make it to me. Dude, it's the judge. Anyway.
The judge.
That's what's been on my mind.
Yeah.
That was a deep one.
Yeah, I'll have to process that. I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I've been in the middle for years. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it's I don't know, it just goes to show there's nothing new. This is not new.
Nothing new under the sun.
Can we believe that somebody gets in a position of power and next thing you know, they're horrible? Well, here we go. By the way, Abimelech he killed all those brothers. I told you he had 70 brothers.
Yeah, he killed them all.
Killed them all.
Yeah.
All but one that was hiding. Because he wanted them out of the way so he could be the ruler. And he ended up getting hit in the head with a rock that a woman threw, like a millstone, but like in the kitchen type millstone, not a huge one. And busted his head, like crushed his head, but he was still alive and told his little armor bearer guy, he's like, hey, stab me real quick because I can't die. No, they can't get out that a woman killed me. But it's in the Bible that the woman crushed his head with a rock, so it still got out.
Yeah. Well, he must have been pretty evil because that goes all the way back to Genesis where your head will get crushed by the serpent's head will get crushed by the heel of the foot.
Yeah, but that's...
In this case, it was a rock.
I think that was Isaiah. And I think it's referencing Jesus, not Abimelech.
Well, no, but I mean, he was evil.
Crushing
so
some heads.
his head got crushed.
Head crushing heads.
It's a stretch, but I like it.
Yes. That's what's been on my mind.
Good deal. Well, we'll take a break. When we come back, top 3 burger additions. Toppings, whatever.
You could say ketchup.
Ketchup. At Admiral's Pennant, our mission is to offer the latest and refined, high-quality masculine products and services to the modern gentleman, as well as provide him with the tools and products necessary to look, act, and feel confident in his appearance and social interactions. Check it out at admiralspennant.com. Without it, you might as well shave. And we're back.
Top 3.
With our top 3 burger toppings.
Yes.
And I suppose today... Troy, why don't you kick us off, please?
All right. Number 3, caramelized onions.
Ooh.
Add a little sweet flavor to your burger. Those are delicious.
I'm 50-50 on those, man.
Oh,
What?
I don't like,
is it your stomach?
it's the sweetness. I don't like sweet and meat and the sweetness that you just talked about that comes out.
Sweet with savory.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
But describe caramelized onions.
Grilled onions or grilled or sauteed onions that have been
Browned.
Brown,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're getting
that
it translucent, you turn a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily sweet.
It can add a hint of sweetness.
It does add a sweetness the longer you caramelize them.
I season the onions that I caramelize.
I do too, with salt, pepper, and garlic.
I do it with steak and chop seasoning from
good
Weber,
too.
one of those Weber seasonings.
Good stuff.
See, now, Sport Burger does that. They add those caramelized onions to their burgers, and I love their burgers.
Sport Burger is probably the best burger in town, in my opinion.
I'm kind of right there with you. The only
Write that down, Chet. We agreed on something else.
The only minor detraction from their burger is those caramelized onions.
He can't even say I flat out agree with you. Right. I'm right there with you.
Right there, close with you.
I am pretty close there with you because I haven't tasted all their burgers in Wichita, but it's the best one in Wichita that I've had.
Which is why you would say what you would say.
Well, because I don't know, local flavor is pretty.
Local flavor is really good.
Pretty
They're up
darn
there.
good burger.
They're up there. They're probably in my top 3.
All right.
I've done a run of burgers, local burgers in Wichita. If you want to watch that, you can go to livelocalict.com.
We'll put a link in the show description.
There you go. All right.
Number 2.
Numero 2. Jalapenos.
Question.
Yes.
Pickled, fresh.
That was my question.
I like them fresh, not pickled. I would like them heated up or grilled.
Okay.
So you get that little bit of crunch.
Yeah.
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 Important.
And number 1, mushrooms.
Gross.
Sauteed.
You had a good list going here, man.
Sauteed in butter with garlic, salt, or just grilled and thrown on the burger. Love it. I got some honorable mentions too, but I'll wait.
What you got, man?
Well, I had something to say about your.
Mushrooms don't belong on hamburgers.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't. They don't even belong on my plate.
See, I love mushrooms.
I do too.
Love them. So if I got like a mushroom Swiss burger or something like that, you know, I would scrape off the cheese and mushrooms and I would eat that on the side.
I've done that.
Not on the burger.
I usually just let the ones that fall. I just scoop them into a little.
But see, it's just not enough.
pile.
It's just not enough. There's not enough of a pile.
Yeah.
So I let that flavor permeate the burger.
Mushrooms don't have flavor.
Yes, they do.
Other than BAD. Bad flavor.
Have you ever been to the Old Town Farmers Market? There's a lady there that has a booth. It's all mushrooms.
What time?
I have to go check it out.
What time is the farmer's market?
Saturday mornings.
How early?
I don't know.
Because Matt's not going to make it.
They go into the afternoon.
Oh, there's a chance.
So like one or two, I think.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. What you got?
All right. Number 3, green chilies.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
I love a green chili burger. Just the flavor, and especially if they're not like totally overdone to where there is a little bit of crunch left to them. That's my favorite. Number 2, jalapeno, same way. Two completely different flavors, 2 completely different chilies.
Yep.
But I do like that crunch. That crunch is crucial because you don't get much crunch in a burger.
I'll be pickled jalapenos are just going lower and lower and lower on my list for fresh jalapenos. Like everywhere I've had a fresh jalapeno, even on nachos, like they're just so much better. And if you can grill them, heat them up, that's fine, but don't pickle them.
I don't like pickled jalapenos. I like pickled okra.
So are you doing that?
I only like
for
fried
the
okra.
For the flavor
Fried
or
okra's
because of the mushiness of
No, the flavor.
just the flavor?
Yeah.
So
And I do like a crisp.
I'll have to bring in some of the peppers that I've pickled because they still have a crunch, and
I'll try it, but
it's a good flavor.
the only thing is that I like pickled or cucumbers.
Pickles.
Those are called pickles, Chet.
Pickled cucumbers.
I know.
Idiot.
I'm not. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. And then I would have to say my number 1.
I had you were like, what is a pickled cucumber? I saw it in his face. Then he was like, oh, I get it. Never mind. You're only mad at me because I made you think that you were an idiot.
Number 1.
Look at him smiling. He knows it. I got
Stupid.
you, man.
No, you didn't get
I
me.
got you good.
No, because my wife and mother-in-law do this every year with
Well, you think you'd got it by now.
they pickle the cucumbers.
Well, you don't pickle a pickle. That's for certain.
You might be able to.
Tickle a pickle.
The number 1 thing
Get
that
us
I
back
like to
on
add
track.
to a burger
Get us back on track.
is pepper jack cheese.
That's a good one.
That's my number 1 topping. So the theme for all my 3 is just adding heat, adding spice to the burger.
I like it. Yeah.
If I eat it and I don't have to go to the bathroom like 10 minutes after I'm done, it's not good enough burger. Like it's got to be hot enough to make me go poo. That's how you know it's a good burger.
All right, Chet.
I've never equated that activity with good. Oh, that was good food.
I didn't have to go take a poo.
Like,
Whoosh.
I could just invite him over to my house. Ashley, that was really good food. I had to poop right after I ate it.
Yep.
I've heard of burping is like, it's telling telling the chef like, oh, you like my meal, burp, burp.
No,
Never heard of poo.
with my new stomach, it's immediate. Yeah. If it's super good, it's got to be a juicy burger with some spice. Because I can do it with spicy eggs too. A good set of spicy eggs or biscuits and pretty much any food I eat.
I don't know if that's a good food issue or you got problems.
Hey, I'm just super regular. I know if I eat, I'm gonna go.
All right. Number 3, an over easy egg as a burger topping.
Those are good.
Not my favorite.
Clearly, it wasn't in your top 3.
No.
Number 2,
Gets in the beard.
crunchy bacon.
Oh, that's a good one.
If you bite into it and the piece of bacon tries to stay with your bite and you end up pulling that whole thing off, I'd rather not have the bacon. Like if it's a chewy bacon.
Yeah, if it comes all off in one piece.
It's got to be like bacon made for BLT, but on your burger.
You know who does this well?
My mom.
Five Guys.
Oh, okay.
Five Guys is good with crunchy bacon on their burgers. But it has to be crunchy bacon. That also helps. I love crunchy things on a burger. I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna have lettuce, it needs to be good.
I
crisp,
think we all three agree.
heartwarming.
Yeah.
Agree on that. Yeah.
I may have even just said that.
I may have actually said that the over easy egg isn't going to be crunchy, but anyway, number one.
That's why it's not one of my favorites, because it's not
crunchy and it has no heat.
no heat. And when you bite into that yolk, when my beard was longer, my mustache was all freaking funky. It'd get all up in there, and then I'm struggling with that egg yolk in my mustache for the rest of the day. So not worth it.
All right, number 3.
Crunch is crucial.
Onion sauteed, as you mentioned, or like crispy fried, like your little onion loaf type onion.
Oh, yeah.
Crispy onions,
Ooh, yeah.
battered and fried.
Oh, so
I'd prefer it that way.
You would want it battered?
Yeah. I'd prefer it over the other, but if I'm grilling burgers, we typically will cut up and saute an onion on the grill while we're cooking the meat. I love it. Onion.
Yeah. I love onion.
Your Uncle Bob loves onions too.
Yes, he does.
We were over there several weeks back, and we were making. It was grilling. I grilled burgers, and he's like, "I like onion. Who else wants onion?" And sounds like I'll have onion. Purple onion.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's like, "Only 2 people want onion," and like, yeah, I didn't say I want onion. So Bob takes a purple onion, and he slices it up, and then he takes the whole slice of onion, like not a ring, the whole slice, and he puts one on his burger, and then he puts one on Stone's burger. And then I look over there, and Stone's like,
That's a lot of onion.
yeah, that's not what I asked for.
That's how I eat onion on
And
mine.
then, so then I figured that was going to happen. So then I took, half of Stone's onions and put them on my burger.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, my honorable mention that I had was blue cheese crumbles.
That is the worst thing you put on a burger. Blue cheese can go away.
I'm not a big fan of blue cheese
Oh,
myself.
I love it.
No.
Because I like the crumbles too, because it's not in every bite.
No.
And then when you get a bite of it, I was like, I had this
No.
yesterday. I was like, oh, man, I forgot I added that. That's tasty.
Yeah. No.
And then it falls off too, so you mix it in with the
this
mushrooms.
is all gross. This is gross. I'd rather eat mushrooms
eat
than
it?
blue cheese.
What about black olives, huh?
That's a close call.
I knew it would
I'd
be.
still mushrooms ahead of both of those.
Oh, that's funny.
I do like some shrooms though.
Shrooms are good.
No.
Shrooms are good.
And there is something too.
I would eat mushrooms if I was in a survival scenario. Voluntarily.
But then you wouldn't know which mushrooms were good, so you'd be all tripped out hugging a tree somewhere.
He'd probably survive though.
Maybe he wouldn't be hungry.
Oh man.
But that you gave me a hard time about it when I just said ketchup, but there is something about just doing a burger when I'm at like a deer camp or something like that. I don't have a lot of amenities there to do a whole lot of fine dining with your caramelized onions and all this kind of stuff. But just the perfect burger, seasoned just right with mustard. Nothing else.
No, I'm a mayo. I'm mayo before mustard.
No. For me, that mustard on that burger just.
If it's the right, so here's the funny thing about from a condiment perspective, like ketchup. What kind of ketchup? What brand?
Heinz.
I don't really do ketchup a whole lot, but
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say you don't really care, because then I was going to come off the top rope. It matters.
It does matter.
Yeah.
Have you tried the vegetable Heinz?
No,
We got it for our kids. You can't really tell the difference.
I don't believe you.
I mean, I think you could
Isn't
I mean, ketchup is a vegetable made from tomatoes. So how is it vegetable?
What's
well,
the
I mean,
difference?
it's like they have carrots and something else in it.
Oh.
In the flavoring.
just feed them carrots?
They don't eat carrots, Chet.
Just feed them carrots.
You can
Open up
lead
the
a
hatch.
horse to water.
No,
Chet.
I do like spicy ketchup, but not on a burger.
I like Whataburger spicy ketchup. It's good. Which is probably just Heinz spicy ketchup.
I like mustard on stuff. I'm a fan.
I like hot mustard, spicy mustard, especially if you get them at a local Asian place. They have that like spicy mustard.
Dude, did I tell you the story about Broughton?
Stuff. No.
So one of the first times, Chris Broughton, one of our former guest hosts, been on the show quite a few times. I think it was one of the first times I ever went out to eat with him. We go to this Chinese restaurant off of California.
Oh yeah, in Ruston.
In Ruston. And it was a sit down place. You order, it wasn't a buffet or anything. You sit down and order what you want. He ordered sweet and sour chicken. And so we sit down. The guy comes over, is like, yeah, we'll have water. And he's like, I'll have sweet and sour chicken. And I don't even remember what I ordered. And they run back there and they run back out with our food. So no drinks have shown up yet. I think he just has his food. I don't even think I have mine yet. And he grabs one of these, fried chicken pieces and dips it into the bowl of hot mustard on the table, like submerges it and just like tosses it down the hatch. Just pop it in there and then proceeds to, he's like, and his like eyes are watering and he's like, and the whole time I'm watching it happen, like, what are you doing? Like it's all slow motion. And then he's like, I need something to drink. He's like yelling and they come running with some water. He's got tears running down his face. He's beet red. He's coughing. And I'm like, what were you thinking? He's like, I thought that was honey mustard. And I said, at a Chinese restaurant? That's hot mustard. Oh, he's like, man. I didn't know. I thought you just have mustard. Now it's going to be honey mustard.
That's awesome.
I cracked up. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
We're ready for a good word.
Yeah, moving on, Troy.
All right, we are on day 32. The house that stands is the name of the study here. It's out of Luke. And the first verse is, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you? So then it talks about, people in Jesus' time, people would follow him around because he could do certain things, right? He could do miracles and he could feed them. He could do all these things that they liked and that they enjoyed having him around for. But actually giving yourself to him or his ministry was hard for the masses, right? And that's like kind of human nature. We really don't like giving ourselves up to authority, right? We like to do our own thing. We like to be in control. And it's funny because in one of the lines in here you mentioned earlier is there's nothing new under the sun, because the people hanging around Jesus had, similar issues that we do today. Case in point, what's on your mind with Gideon. So then Jesus comes along and he starts doing all these things and he's telling them that he is the Son of God. And they're like, no, thanks, Jesus. We'd rather take in the show and you just show us your miracles and give us some food and all that stuff. We'll be fine.
Especially if they thought he was the one that was going to be like the king over and defeat the Romans, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was there with you before all this happened, Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to follow you, man. Yeah, don't.
Man, I was there when you fed the 5,000. I was one of the 5,000, man.
Yeah. Come on, bro.
For real.
Can you dig it?
So later in Luke, Jesus says, everyone who comes to me and hears my words and does them is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when the flood arose, the stream broke against that house and could not shake it because it had been well built. But the one who hears and does not do them is like the man who built his house on the ground without a foundation. When the stream broke against, immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. So he's saying, build your house on a rock that stands. And Jesus is the rock that stands, or the the house that stands. He is the foundation.
He's the
to build your house on.
And not because, you know, but in both cases you have houses, right?
Right, yeah.
One on foundation, one on sand. But you have a house. But if you want to be standing after all the trials come, after the worst things possible they could come, if your foundation is built on him, you're still going to be around. If it wasn't, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. And calling Jesus Lord is basically saying that, yeah, he is my foundation. I'm going to build my house on him, and he's going to be the one that brings me through everything when the storms do come. Thanks for listening to the Hardheaded Podcast. Don't forget to share this podcast with others to help us get the word out.
Also, if you haven't yet, please rate and review the show. This helps our podcast show up in other people's suggested shows that may or may not have listened to us before.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.